Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the Excelsior. It's the Tier 5 British premium heavy tank. It's located on the north spawn of Serene Coast, and this is under the command of Andromeda. And it's a 3 replay video, all featuring Andromeda, and a rather special event right at the end. Game started. Now the Excelsior, we've covered it before, is basically an upgraded Cromwell with extra armour, the suspension and tracks of an M6 and a 75mm gun at the front, which is fairly quick firing. 3.14 seconds is the book reload we've got, or the reload we've got on this vehicle. 3.64 is the book one, so he's got it down by half a second already. Now Andromeda likes playing this one, and you may have seen there was another video where he's played it 3 times on other maps. In fact, he did play one game on this map. Oh, just got a hit in the VK3001H. It's a German heavy tank with a 30-ton prototype. Looking for another shot. He's got a KV-1. Try to get the turret from KV-1. It is possible to be accurate with this gun on this tank. He's just not getting the shots bang on target on this one. He's only seeing the top of the turret of the KV-1. Now the great thing about the Excelsior is the armour at the front. It's basically 115mm both on the hull and on the turret as well. And that means that if you fire at an Excelsior and fire and hit the front, you're very unlikely to penetrate unless you're using premium ammo or you're a tier 6 tank with decent penetration. In fact, it's got almost as much armour at the rear of the vehicle, 108mm on the hull and 92mm on the turret. And there he's got an Su-85, which is a Soviet tier 5 tank destroyer with a decent 85mm gun. He should be able to penetrate Andromeda, but he never got the chance to. He's out the game. It's also got a fair turn of speed actually as well, but it's got a Rolls-Royce Meteor engine, which is the same engine you find in Spitfires, although it doesn't have the supercharger. So it's capable of 620 horsepower of 27 litres. That's a big engine. Top speed is 38.6 miles per hour. And in the game it carries 75 rounds. Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong key there. 75 rounds of 75mm ammunition, but in actual reality the tank can only carry 64 rounds, so Wargaming have been a little bit generous by giving these extra rounds. Okay, he's got the KV-1. Apparently there's an M10 just around the corner, and it's the M10 RBFM with the 3-inch gun, which is a decent penetrating gun. 76mm, or just slightly more than 76mm, but it does have fairly good penetration. It's just wasn't getting a whole lot of penetration. He's going for the round kill, and he gets it. He lost a huge amount of hit points though. He's down to just 9 now. And the IKV fluffed his shot, and if he rams this guy he will probably lose his own life, but yet the IKV goes down. He didn't die. There's only 2 enemies remaining, a Striv M42 on the other side of the railway track and an M4A1, but he's got so little in the way of hit points, only 9. If he does ram that Striv he will probably die in the process, and there's the Striv trying to get a shot on him. Now he's got a 75mm gun, but he probably won't pin. As you can see, Andromeda's trying to shoot between the railway wagons. Much easier to do that in sniper view, that's better. And the Striv goes down to a shot from the Fifi on our team, the 105 FH18B2. So this game is over, and it's a victory on minimal hit points. Let's have a look at the second battle. The second battle is on the south spawn of Lakeville. Game started. Well, normally if you're in a heavy tank, I'd recommend you go to town on Lakeville. The valley's a bit of a death trap really, especially if there's Arty on the enemy team. Thankfully there's no Arty in this game. And although some of his teammates are firing at him from behind, it looks like he's going to go down the valley. Now, what identifies the Excelsior more than anything else is those big side skirts. Now, the armour's fairly thin on the sides, it's only 32mm or 31.75. But you can see it's got those huge side skirts over the side of the tracks, which are borrowed from the M6. And the thing is that it's not the only British tank with side skirts, because the T-14, which is an American tank sent over for trials, also had side skirts. And the side skirts do act as spaced armour, because the rounds have got to get through the side skirt and then they've got to get through the actual body of the vehicle as well, which, as I said, is a Cromwell. Nice shot into the Stug. He's using the premium ammo again, lots of it. Finishes off the Stug very quickly. Now the alpha of the gun is 110, 91mm of penetration with standard ammo, and with the premium rounds you get up to 144mm. And with the HE rounds, well, you've got 175 alpha. Now he's taking rounds in the tracks at the moment. They are very big on very wide tracks. Oh, some serious opposition here. And they're underplaying their position. They're not playing it very well. And he's taken out the M10. He's going for the weak spot on the KV-1, which is the driver's port. Oh, hit the Panzer III. He goes down. Goes back to the KV-1, who's not aiming correctly. He penned the lower plate. Goes to the lower plate again. Gets it. Go for the weak spot, the driver's port. Yes, he's going to go down. And that's it. He didn't get the kill. The KV-1 was actually killed by RT1 Heavy, but now he's coming up against serious opposition in the form of another Excelsior. And this is where you really do need the premium ammo, because standard ammo is not going to get through the front of the Excelsior, and either that or you have to aim for the sides of the vehicle. Oh, we got a ammo rack, a big hit there. Set the ammo rack off, blew the turret off completely. It's lying by the side of the vehicle. He's careful to avoid the actual turret. Used to produce unusual effects in the past, but now Wargaming have solved that problem. It doesn't happen anymore. Used to be able to go into orbit if you actually rolled over a turret. Well, he's in the cap and he's just killed the T1 Heavy, or did he? No, the T1 Heavy killed the T1 Heavy, but he's actually positioned himself very badly in the cap. But he did kill the M10, and there's only two enemies left. They're in the town. One of them's the P-43, the other one is the Panzer Selbstfahrerfährte 1C, who's somewhere off down there. I think they're just going to sit in the cap and let it cap out. That way they can get into another battle quickly. Oh no, the P-43 wants to win by killing all of the enemy, so he's trying to push Andromeda out. Andromeda's saying no, and then the other P-43's joined that P-43, and what they don't realise is what they're doing is actually increasing the chances that they're going to cap out, because they've now got more than 3 in the cap. And he gets back in, and they've capped out. Very trollish by Nitro Monster and Dave Sniper, or Snaper. Not very nice of them to do that, but the game is over. It's another victory. So let's have a look at the third battle. The third replay is on the south spawn of Mines. Game underway. I may have mentioned before that the Excelsior came about because of lack of confidence in the Churchill tank, and that happened because of the raid on Dieppe. Now, not many of you will know about the raid on Dieppe, or some of you might. If you're Canadian, you probably know it very well. It happened in 19th of August 1942, and it was part of what was originally called Operation Rutter, but then later became known as Operation Jubilee. It was an attack on the north coast of France to test out the German defences and see if the British could establish a second front to relieve the pressure on the Soviets. Stalin was urgently requesting that the Western Allies do something to actually take the Germans' pressure off his back. And what they intended to do was test out the German defences. This wasn't a full-scale raid to invade Europe, it was actually just a test, that's all. And they decided they were going to use the Canadian forces to actually invade, and it was not just a number of Canadian regiments, there was also a number of Churchill tanks, Churchill Mark I tanks with a 6-pounder gun, and also it had 50 US Rangers as well, together with British commandos. Now the raid actually was delayed several times. Oh, good kill there. The raid was delayed several times, and unfortunately the Germans became aware that the British were interested in Dieppe, and they actually bolstered the foot defences around that area because they knew something was up. And the problem was that since they were aware that something was brewing, the Germans were ready and waiting for the invasion force when they arrived. And there also was a major change in the plans for the battle, because they were going to capture the coastal batteries around Dieppe by an airborne invasion, but the RAF weren't sure that they could actually do it and succeed, so instead they decided to have a commando raid, which is where the US Rangers came into it. And what they were going to do instead was capture the batteries of guns. At the on one side it was a I think it was a 17 centimeter coastal gun, which was supposed to knock out any naval ships in the area, but they also had 105mm light field howitzers, and on the other side of the Dieppe they had 6 Schwerfeldhaubitsers, the 15 centimeter howitzers, and they were successfully taken out by Lord Lovett and his commandos and the US Rangers. Unfortunately, some of the US Rangers did get killed and captured. They lost 3, 5 were wounded and 3 were captured, but they were successful in their task, and so was Lord Lovett, and they were later recovered. Now the tanks I mentioned, unfortunately the Churchill ones weren't well suited to amphibious operations because they just didn't have the ability to wade in over a beach. And although they sent a number of tanks, only 29 Churchills actually managed to get to the landing areas. 2 of them sank in deep water because they just didn't have the ability to get off the beach. 12 got stuck in the shingle and were taken out by German anti-tank guns. And 15 Churchills actually did make it over the sea wall and started attacking the Germans, but unfortunately the defences were so heavy that they had to return back to the beach to defend the troops, and every one of them that went back to the beach was knocked out. So the Churchill tank was considered a bit of a failure. Well, certainly not a failure here for Andromeda, because he's actually managed to get 1.5k of damage already, and he's now dealing with the tanks that managed to get past the centre point, blocking the shots that are coming from that T-34 shielded. Now he's going to deal with the Panzer IIIJ, more than a match for that, and he's gone as well. Now it was a big loss for all concerned because it was such a failure, and because the Germans were waiting for them. That of the 10,500 men on the British side, 5,000 of which were Canadians, and they lost 3,367 killed, wounded or captured. So it was an extremely bad raid for the Canadians, and Of course, the person who was actually primarily responsible for planning of the mission, which was Lord Louis Mountbatten, was never liked in Canada afterwards. It was a bit of a failure, but it was a failure that led to a success, because even though the losses were pretty bad, the fact is that they learned a lot of lessons which helped to make D-Day a success. And the reasons for that is that one thing they learned is not to attack the Germans in the Pas de Calais, where there was lots of guns and the beaches were difficult to get up. The second was to pick open beaches where there was lots of shallow beaches, so that the troops could get ashore and the tanks could support them. And another thing that they learnt was to be extremely secretive and not to let the Germans be aware of where they were attacking. So that's why the D-Day landings were extremely secretive, and the Germans thought that they were going to attack in the Pas de Calais, but they didn't. They were actually selling them a dummy. They were making the Germans think that that's where they were going by false radio messages and everything like that. But it worked out very well for them, because they sold the Germans a dummy and they managed to get ashore. Another reason that they also succeeded in D-Day was that they had substantial airborne landings inland, and those inland airborne actually did manage to disrupt the Germans a lot. They not only took out a lot of the heavy artillery, which would have been used to fire at the beaches, but they also caused panic amongst the German rear, because all of a sudden there was all these American Rangers and just the Rangers, American Airborne, British Airborne, and these guys went out and they caused absolute pandemonium in the enemy rear, and the Germans just weren't able to get to the beaches, except of course Omaha Beach, where they were able to hold the Americans on the beach for a long time, because the sea defences at Omaha were extremely strong. It looks like that Stugger's disconnected. That was the one that hit Andromeda. So it's now 3 versus 2, and it looks like they're going to win this one. On the Dieppe raid, 2 of the British personnel that actually, well, 2 of the personnel who took part managed to get VCs. One of them was a Canadian and the other one was a British guy. So you can see that there was an extremely gallant fighting in the battle. Just to give you an extent of the amount of losses, the Royal Navy alone lost a destroyer, 33 landing craft, and suffered 550 killed, wounded or captured. And the RAF lost 64 Spitfires, 20 Hurricanes and 6 Boston bombers who came along to help, as well as 10 Mustangs, and they lost 62 killed and 30 wounded. So there was a lot of loss all round. The Germans lost 23 Focke-Wulf 190s, 25 Dornier 2 bombers who got involved, but their losses were considerably less. They had only 311 killed, 280 wounded, not nearly as high as the 3,367 Canadians who were captured or wounded or killed on that day. So Dieppe was a big failure, but because of Dieppe, D-Day was a big success, because they knew exactly what to do so that they could win in Normandy. Yes, there was a lot of losses, and yes, the Canadians were very upset that they lost so many, but it was a success, it really was. And Dieppe actually did persuade them that the Churchill tanks needed to be upgraded, because they were basically infantry tanks. They were very slow tanks, they were designed to go alongside the infantry. They weren't really fast, but they certainly weren't suited to amphibious operations, because they just didn't have the equipment to wade in from the shore. And it's doubtful that the Excelsior would have had the same capability either. And that's why a lot of work had to go on devising tanks that could actually get ashore from the landing craft at Normandy. And some of the things they came up with was the shields that made tanks amphibious by creating a kind of not a stocking, it's not the right word, but it's wading shields around the tanks that turned them into basically very heavy boats, so they could get ashore and they wouldn't sink. Some of them did sink in Normandy, but not all of them. Okay, we've got a Type T-34 coming in. He's the last enemy. Panzer 3J's trying to have a go. He's almost capped out. You've almost capped out. You've capped out. Okay, now kill him. Oh, you missed your chance. So this game was a victory for a 2 marks Excelsior. But let's have a look at the end of battle results and we'll see how he managed to get on in that game. Here's the end of battle results for the first game on Serene Coast, and well, Andromeda managed to get a second class tanker in that one, fighter badge, duelist, fire for effect and a bruiser medal for getting at least 6 critical hits in this one. He also got a Spartan badge because he actually survived a ricochet non-penetrating shot that came from the enemy. I think that was the Striv M42, yes, that fired a round at him while he was trying to shoot at him through the railway wagons. And he had less than 10% of his hit points left. Well, in fact, actually, he had very few hit points left. I think it was only 9, if I remember correctly. And he also managed to get a Brothers in Arms because he platooned with somebody else who had at least 3 kills. And he got a Steel Wall as well for blocking the most damage in that game. 4,792 was the win 8, so a very good game, Super Unicum standard. When it came to damage, though, the most damage was actually done by the Fifi on his team. Yes, the 105 FH-18B2 managed to get a Brothers in Arms. He was the other platooner. And he got a Gauze Medal, High Caliber, and a Top Gun in that game for 2,791 hit points. The next high scorer being Andromeda, 1353. And after that, it was the enemy M10 RBFM, the guy he met, actually. 1,270 hit points of damage to him. When it came to kills, it was the Fifi again with 6 kills. 4 kills went to Andromeda, and nobody on the enemy team managed to get more than 1 kill. And when it came to base XP, it's again the same story. It's the Fifi who's top with 1,125. 1,020 went to Andromeda, and they were the only 2 players who managed to get over 1,000. He fired 29 rounds in that game, 16 direct hits, 13 penetrations, damage of 1,353 hit points, of which 204 were at more than 300 meters, received 11 hits from the enemy. That was enough to get the Steel Wall, 7 penetrations, 3 non-penetrations and 1 hit by way of splash damage. He blocked damage of 415 hit points and lost most of the hit points he had on his own vehicle anyway. 2 enemy vehicles spotted, 6 enemy vehicles damaged, 4 killed and 562 hit points of damage assistance. He earned 46,857 credits from the game, but again, because he blew so much premium ammo, he actually ended up with a loss of 47,046 credits overall. 1,530 XP, 612 for this being a premium vehicle, took away 2,142 experience points altogether, but he did get another 3 medals in the Excelsior. Let's have a look and see them in the second game. And another second class tanker. This time round he got a demolition expert because he blew up the enemy Excelsior with a lucky shot. He also managed to get a shell proof for blocking more damage than hit points to his own vehicle, and a fire for effect for doing more damage than hit points to his own vehicle. This time round, instead of getting a Spartan, he got a cool headed for surviving 10 or more ricochets or non-penetrating shots in a row, a High Caliber for dealing the most damage in the game, a Steel Wall for blocking the most damage in the game, and he got a Confederate as well for hitting more of the enemy than anyone else on his team. His win rate was considerably higher, 7,425 in this one, and this was the game, if you remember, where the P-43s tried to push him out of the cap circle at the end. He says 4 medals and 2 players pushed me out the cap, so they get the extra XP. Yes, not very smart on their point, but we can see that he did manage to get 2,340 hit points of damage, easily the highest. The next one being the T1 Heavy, who actually did get a couple of kill steals in there, and he took away a couple of kills that should have gone to Andromeda. 1,913 hit points of damage to him, followed by the Panzer 5-4, which if you can get hold of is well worth buying. It's a premium tank, 1,461 hit points. These little tanks go around the battlefield blasting away like mad. It's basically a Panther with a Panzer 4 hull, with a Panzer 4 turret rather, with a very fast fire rate, so well worth getting one of these. When it came to kills, it was the T1 Heavy, 5 kills. Remember I said some of those kills should have gone to Andromeda, but they were kill steals. The guy got in there quickly and snatched them away from Andromeda. 3 kills to Andromeda and 3 kills to that Panzer 5-4. And when it came to base XP, yes, Andromeda's got that one. 1,289 to him. 1,014 went to the T1 Heavy, and that Panzer 5.4, yes again, he's following up with 871. He fired 25 rounds in this game, 22 direct hits and 20 penetrations, damage of 2,340 hit points, all of it at close range, 13 hits received from the enemy. All of them didn't penetrate. Everyone failed to get through. They either hit the tracks or they just bounced off the armour. 1,330 hit points of damage blocked by armour. 1 enemy vehicle spotted, 9 enemy vehicles damaged and 3 killed, and 146 hit points of damage assistance. This time round he earned a little more in the way of credits, 63,765, but yet again he's fired a lot of APCR and his losses were, well, they're less, 7,935 credits loss, but it was still a loss when he should have actually been firing standard ammo through that battle. He would have easily been able to penetrate most of the enemy with standard ammo. Only the Excelsior would have been a problem, and he would have had to have switched to APCR on that one. 1,933 XP, 774 for this being a premium vehicle, took away 2,707 experience points altogether. So that was a decent battle as well, but let's have a look at the third one, because that's the important one. That was a third mark of excellence game. Yes, the one on Mines when I was rabbiting on about the Dieppe raid. He managed to get a first class tanker, which was better than the last two battles. He also got a duelist, fiber effect, and a bruiser medal. He picked up a high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game, and he also got a top gun, and well, he came damn close to getting a Radley Waters as well. He got 7 kills in that game, 7 kills. Yes, and I was just talking about Dieppe all the time whilst he was doing the damage. His win rate was considerably higher, 11,399, a very good score indeed, super unicum and a bit more. And he proved that, yes, the Excelsior can hold its own in Tier 5 games. Let's have a look at team score. Top damage, 2,375 hit points. The next high scorer being the Panzer IV Aslains H with 1,928, followed by the Churchill 3, 1,451 to him. When it came to kills, again he's got the highest with 7 kills, 3 kills to the Type T-34 was left alive at the end of the game. He managed to get a Spartan, and 3 kills as well to that T-34 shielded. It was very, very dangerous actually, but finally Andromeda managed to see to him. When it came to base XP, he's got the top again with 1,427. Even though he didn't survive the battle, he just did so much damage, he earned that extra XP. 1,105 went to the Churchill 3, and 780 went to the Panzer III Aslains J. He fired 32 rounds in this game, 28 direct hits and 23 penetrations, damage of 2,375 hit points, of which 216 were at more than 300 meters. So you can see some long range shooting, but he did do most of the damage still at close range. 18 hits received, 5 penetrations, 9 non-penetrations, and 4 hits by way of splash damage. If he'd stayed alive for the entire battle, he probably would have qualified for the Steel War, but of course he was taken out in the centre of the hill. 670 hit points of damage blocked by armour. 3 enemy vehicles spotted, 11 enemy vehicles damaged, 7 killed, and 35 hit points of damage assistance. On this occasion, 63,975 credits, and after ammunition and repair, yeah, I'm afraid he's using the APCR again, and this time round he ended up with a loss of 28,989 credits. But he did get that third mark, and they can never take that away from him. And now, of course, he can use standard AP and not worry about it. 2,140 XP, 856 for this being a premium vehicle, total of 2,996 experience points to take away. So a very important battle, that one, because now he's got a 3 marked Excelsior, and he's very dangerous to be in front of if you happen to be in a battle with him. Better to be on his side than have him on the enemy side. So I hope you've seen from these battles how important the Excelsior tank is. Not just as a training tank, but also the history of it. The fact that this was a tank that was supposed to replace the Churchill, but in fact actually they improved the Churchill and made it capable of amphibious landings in the end, and of course of getting over sea walls, because I think that was one of the big problems they had at Dieppe. They just couldn't get the tanks off the beach, and those that did get off the beach then couldn't face up to the German guns that were arranged against it. Plus, of course, the Churchills that they had were only armed with the 57mm 6-pounder, and really they weren't capable. You needed something with a little more meaty gun. The 75mm on the Excelsior certainly does the business, and of course they did fit better guns to the Churchills eventually to make them more capable against German armour and German anti-tank guns. So a little history and 3 really good replays. I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.